I would like to begin today honoring this great man who left us this week on Sunday, a great Jewish leader who impacted directly thousands upon thousands of people. He was a hero, he was courageous, he was a pioneer, and a most wonderful man. I'm referring, in case you haven't heard, it was all over the Jewish news outlets throughout the week, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Twersky. You can see a picture of him here. It's one of, can you see him there? There we go. He's the author of over 60, that's 60, maybe 70 books. And you can hear him on the internet. Just Google on YouTube, Rabbi Twersky, and there are scores and scores of lectures, longer, shorter one, 5-minute lectures, and they are all very inspiring. Rabbi Twersky and his wife are scions of great Hasidic dynasties, several dynasties, Chernobyl, Bobov, Lubavitch, and others. He is a pioneer and one of the world's experts in addiction problems. Wrote many books on the subject. He created a wonderful institute in Pittsburgh, an entire edifice that treats addiction, and he has helped, as I said, thousands of people directly and many more thousands indirectly through his wonderful books. Psychologist, doctor, rabbi, Hasidic, author, a great loss to the Jewish people. I just want to tell you, he was also a composer of songs. One of them, Hoshea Samecha, is one of the most popular Jewish songs in the Jewish world today. He composed it. It was a favorite of the Rebbe, sung very often at the Rebbe's gatherings, on Simchas Torah. Hoshea Samecha, save your people, Uvareches Nachalasecha, and bless your inheritance. Orim v'nasim ad ha'olam, lift them and raise them unto ever. It's a plea, it's a prayer for salvation, for an end to suffering, an end of the exile. And it's a song he composed to these words. And what's beautifully touching is that he instructed that at his funeral, there be no eulogies. This is actually a Chabad custom. We do not deliver eulogies at a funeral. We say prayers, we give tzedakah, and he asked that this song be sung. It's actually, you can YouTube that, you can Google that, as they carry his bier, his holy remains, the Mountain of Olives there in Jerusalem where he passed away, and they're all singing this song, Hoshea Samecha, that he composed, which we sing often here in MTC too. So I want to share with you one of his many thousands of teachings. I have mentioned this, I'm going to say it again. This was at the class we had the other day for women. Every Tuesday there's a class for women. You're all invited, all the women. I mentioned this wonderful book. I think it's out of print, but you can probably get it, maybe from someone willing to sell it, Generation to Generation. Not a very attractive cover, mind you. They reprint it. I'm sure they'll do something with its cover, but don't judge a book by its cover. Most warm, engaging, and inspiring book. And it's the story of his upbringing as a child in Milwaukee. That's where he was raised by his Hasidic parents, Rabbi community in Milwaukee. So here's one of his teachings. So if you can get a hold of this book, it's just a wonderful read, very inspiring, and particularly it's called, again, From Generation to Generation, and particularly instructive because it's about his upbringing for parents, but for everybody, but particularly parents would gain much about how to bring up their own children. And for that matter, how to bring up ourselves. So it's universal. So here's a teaching. I'm going to just say it in a few sentences. It's very profound and very practical. This is about anger. And this is what the good rabbi has to say, and this is all based on the teachings of Hasidus and so on. We can't help getting angry. If we're provoked, we're insulted, we're hurt, there's going to be a natural response of anger. You can't help that. You're human, you'll get angry. That's stage one, over which we have no control. Stage two, rage. To allow that response then, that feeling in the heart, to manifest as a response back, that we have control of. We don't have control the way we feel, but we can control our response. We do not have to respond with rage back. We are able to control ourselves. That's stage two. And if we allow it to linger within us, allow it to fester, then it becomes indeed cancerous, injurious for our own spiritual and physical well-being. If we walk around with resentment, these again are choices. You don't have to do that. You don't have to respond with rage. You can let it go. But if we don't, we are the ones that in the end are most damaged. It's unhealthy for ourselves, and it's certainly unhealthy for the people that have to live with us. So anger, that initial response, that can't be helped, that's human. Rage, that's in our hands, and certainly to harbor it in our heart for a long time and harbor resentment, that's certainly a choice as well. Right, it's a very powerful teaching. It takes a few seconds to say. You take it to heart, it's life transforming. He's simply saying that we can be in control of our response and behavior as opposed to the way we feel, that you can't change. But am I going to think about this, harbor it, hang on to it, respond angrily? That's completely in our hands. And that's the choice that a mature adult is expected to make. Self-control and the ability to let go. I'll just add to this, which he doesn't talk about in this particular talk, but I would assume he does in other places from the teachings of Hasidus. In the end, we can actually control that initial feeling of hurt and anger by recognizing whatever happens to me is by divine providence. There's a message, there's some truth that I need to discover and work on myself. So I let go completely from the one who did it, becomes internal focus. What can I learn? What's the message to me? And it is a message, because everything is a message from on high. Then we can turn around the initial anger, actually turn it around, which is an instinctual response, at least for a few moments that you cannot control. But in the end, we can turn it around and make it light and a learning process. And be thankful for what happened, because it's a message that I have toiled to discover by being very honest with myself and then work on myself. And so it's thank you. Thank you for saying that or doing that, because that's a message to me that I needed to hear. This requires a lot of honesty and a lot of courage. And that's a very, very precious commodity, honesty and courage. Excuse me a moment, I just need to move that. Okay. Lifelong's work. We fail, doesn't mean we give up on ourselves. We keep on working, get back into the horse and work on our responses. Our response to anger, response to disappointment, response to our perceived injustice. Our response is what we have control over. Okay? So I share this teaching with you from the much revered and beloved Rabbi Abraham J. Yeshua Twersky. Now a few words, friends, about this extraordinary virtual convention that's happening right now as we speak, although I'm not sure if there are any sessions at this late hour on Erev Shabbat. I imagine there isn't, but there have been throughout the last few days. And as I think I mentioned, I did in my letter to you on Sunday, and I urge you all to get onto this, men and women alike. You got the link, Sunday 1:30, tune in to the grand virtual banquet. I guarantee you an hour or so of entertainment, but most importantly, inspiration. So what's going on? So I mentioned it's historical, and indeed it is. This is a convention of thousands of Chabad women, shluchot, Chabad women emissaries across the globe. From Alaska to New Zealand, from the depths of Siberia to Hawaii, from all over the world, Australia, all over the world, former Soviet Union, wherever there are Jews, there's Chabad. And Chabad is a team. It's a husband and wife. And this time of year, for a number of years now, the women leave their respective posts for a few days, a week, and come to the Bavitch World Headquarters for their 3-4 day of workshop and sharing and convention and grand banquet, where they learn from each other and share experiences, dealing with all of the challenges that they all face. And the challenges they all face are the challenges of their fellow Jews, wherever they may be, and they vary in different parts of the world. In other words, every possible challenge, human experience that the human being is faced with on this planet is dealt with these few days, seeking solution, answers, advice that they can bring back to their respective communities and individuals that they all deal with. It's awe-inspiring. It's never happened in the history of the world, such an army that the Rebbe created after the ashes of the Holocaust. And Lubavitch was a handful of survivors. The Rebbe turned this small group of Hasidic Jews located in New York, a handful, and there was some in Paris. That's where they were after the war. They got out of Russia. My mother got out of Russia, my grandparents, and the false Polish passports the Russian government gave it as an opening to get out. And they got passports from Polish Jews that had died, unfortunately, and they assumed their identities. And that's how they got out. They're talking the tens, not more than that. And that was the nucleus of the transformation that the Rebbe created over the next 50 years. This army on one-way tickets to every corner of the globe. One mission. Reach out to your fellow Jew in absolute love, unconditional love. Be there for him or her, young or old, for all that they require materially and spiritually. The world's never seen such a thing. As I wrote in my letter, it's so new that it's like, now while it's happening, it's difficult to appreciate. One day history will look back and acknowledge the astounding revolution post-Auschwitz that is happening before our eyes. At the forefront of it all are the women. So I want to share with you something. A couple of weeks ago, some of you would have heard it. We invited you all to attend. We had on a Saturday night a couple of weeks back, in connection with the 71st anniversary of the passing of the previous Rebbe, so we had a Saturday night Fabrengen. We invited some shluchim to speak. One in Chengdu, China, one in some northern little town in British Columbia. I forgot its name, forgive me, I'm not a Canadian. I never heard of the place before. Starts with
Nanaimo.
That's it. And the third was from Tulsa, thank you, Oklahoma. So if you were on, you heard, I think he said it then, Dovi, who's in Shane, do China, who, because of COVID, his entire Jewish population was decimated. No one is born in China. These are all Israelis or Americans that live in China. It's the Silicon Valley of China, and he was servicing them, and almost everybody left. Anyway, and he's still there. But this was the amazing thing, or one of the many amazing things that he said. He said when he was, either they were dating or soon after they were married, he and his wife, Sorla, from Borough Park, Brooklyn. So, the beauty, I should tell you, of the it's not unique to Chabad, the Torah observant world altogether when it comes to dating. There's just so much sense to it that it works through a shadchan. It means, friends, you don't even go out unless all the basics have been cleared. You find this out before? What kind of person, family, and most importantly, their aspirations in life, their goals, their values, all of these things before you meet, you know already. These things aren't mysteries. They shouldn't be. So when they meet, it's just to find out if there's chemistry, if there clicks, if they can, if there's a soul connection. That's all that's left to find out. And if that's what you're looking for, you'll know very soon. They don't go out to have a good time and then see. A good time. For that, you have friends. You go out to see whether this is my soulmate. So all the background research is all done, whether everything on paper fits, but that doesn't mean anything. There's got to be chemistry. There's got to be soul connection. That you can only know when you sit in that person's presence. You look into their eyes and you feel or you don't feel. You feel comfortable, you feel at home, or you don't. No matter how good on paper their resume is. It doesn't take long to find out, yay or nay. It's uncomplicated if you really approach it in a soulful way. Or it shouldn't be complicated. Unfortunately, today it is. That's because we got it all wrong. But that's not for now. What am I telling you? Shoin vergessen. Oh, now I remember. So when they were going out, Dovi says, or they were just married, whatever it was. So they're going on shlichus. That was a given. They're going to be shluchim. Says when they were dating. They're going to be shluchim of the Rebbe. That's his goal and her goal. Beautiful. She comes from Borough Park, which is not the heart of, it's not Crown Heights, not in the epicenter of Lubavitch. But she's a Lubavitch girl. And she's ready to go on shlichus, but she has only one condition. One condition, if possible. It's negotiable, but if possible. One condition as to the posting where they would be and end up being sent. What's the condition? She would like to have running hot water. This is just mind-blowing. Running hot water. And if there isn't, no, we'll find a solution. But in the first place, can we have at least that? I mean, that's it. That's all. That's it. So in the place there in Chengdu, China, and it's one Jew at a time, one Jew at a time. And they are symbolic, I guess, of this whole phenomenon of shlichus. That is this revolution that the Rebbe brought about in this generation. And again, it's a husband and wife team. And very often, as in most areas of life, the woman is at the forefront. She's not your Rebbetzin, your typical, stereotypical Rebbetzin by any stretch of the imagination. Which is why these women, all of them, they're leaders. That's why they're all leaders in some way or another. As women, not as men. They did not struggle at all with the whole issue of women and equality. And they're not looking for equality. They're looking to be women. And in fact, in many ways, superior. Equality isn't being like the other person. Equality means you are fully you and I'm free to be fully me. That's equality. Again, I'm digressing. But anyway, it's just an amazing thing to see. It's an amazing thing to see. And you'll see tomorrow, on Sunday, if you just 1:30 in the afternoon. Just click on for a minute, and if you like it, stay on. You'll see just a few thousand women. They're connecting via now the the Zoom. They'll be in the thousands watching it, participating, and many thousands more watching it. And the energy, the confidence, these are revolutionaries, leaders. So what's the message? Okay, beautiful, very nice. We're very appreciative. We applaud them. What's the message for you and I? One of them, my dear friends, is this. And it's very tied in to this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion, friends, actually describes the giving of the Torah. Now listen to this. I'm going to share with you now the first words that God says to Moses when they arrive at Mount Sinai, that sets in motion the whole process of the giving of the Torah, the chosen people, the whole destiny of mankind. Here's the opening words. It goes like this. God called to Moses. Now this is also unusual. God called. God spoke. What does it mean God called? Calling means a calling. It's a huge statement coming now. God called to Moses and he said, so you shall say to the house of Jacob and speak to the sons of Israel. House of Jacob, sons of Israel. Is that not the Jewish people? Period. So why these two different appellations? Explain our sages. House of Jacob is the women. That's a reference to the women. Sons of Israel to the male population. God is telling Moses, first speak to the women, then to the men. They are the custodians of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism, of Torah. If God forbid the women say, we're not interested, God is saying to Moses, don't bother asking the men. No point. If the women agree, then go further. Now, what is it that he's to tell the women? If you look carefully at the text and the commentary, we see that there's a different message. The message to the women is one message, and the message to the men is another one. What's the difference? So briefly, friends, to the men, God tells Moses, tell them that there are consequences. There's reward and there's punishment. You do mitzvahs, you will be rewarded in this world, in the next world. You sin and transgress and violate my commandments, God forbid, then there is hell to pay. The next world, and perhaps even in this world too. That's what the guys have to hear. That's the language they understand. What's the bottom line? What's the result? The result is you're going to make a profit or you're going to make a loss. So follow the rules. Follow the rules of life or be a prophet. P-R-O-F-I-T. You will gain. You will be rewarded. This world, the next world, you'll have nachas, you'll be happy, you'll have a lot of brownie points in heaven. Sin, there's punishment, there's purgatory. That's what the men have to hear, because that's how men operate. What's the bottom line? What am I gaining? What am I losing? What's the deal here? What's the deal? To the women, Hashem says to Moishe, don't talk about reward and punishment. Something far deeper. Tell them that the mitzvahs are about a relationship that I want with the Jewish people. And eventually the women will impart that message to the men. It's about a relationship. I want to build a home together with you. Bet Yaakov, they called the house of Jacob. Mitzvahs are about building a home together. I want to share myself with you, says God. And I want you to share, open up yourself to me. Women understand this. That a marriage and relationships, it's not about you give this, I give that, and we got a deal, we struck a deal. I need this from you, and you need this from me, so we get married and we fulfill it. No. That's for business. You're looking for love, you got your mother. You want physical intimacy per se, plenty of venues for that. Marriage is about sharing yourself, sharing souls, becoming one on the deepest level. 1 + 1 = 1. It's about a relationship. The members of a household are not contributors to the functioning of the home, and if you don't contribute, you're out. You're a member of the family, you're unconditionally part of the family, and we share not just everything, we share ourselves with you, and you share yourself with us. You merge and meld and become one. That's soulmates, that's family. The women understood this from the get-go. God tells Moses it'll take a long time before the guys get this. That Judaism isn't about becoming anything, it's about reward and punishment. It's about becoming pious and becoming scholarly and getting heaven. It's about a relationship now with God. Hashem says, open up to me. I want to be part of your life. That's the fundamental message given at the outset. It was given at the outset, at the very beginning of the giving of the Torah, when God said to Moses, you first speak to the house of Jacob, to the women. Tell them, I want a house with you. I want a home. That's what it's all about. A home. Jews, one with each other, one with God, in one embrace. That's what I want, says God. That's what these mitzvahs are all about. So, it will take a long time for this really to get through, thousands of years. Finally, I'm a guy and I'm talking about it. This is news, big news. The time has come. Chassidus is the feminine dimension of Judaism. Kabbalah is the feminine dimension of the Torah, which is revealed only in these last generations. And now Rebbe has pulled out all the stops and revealed the greatest depth of Torah. The core of it all is the relationship, the home that we must make our bodies, our physical homes, and the world. So this incredible Shabbos, when these Jewish leaders, the women, they lead differently than men. They lead by nurturing the spark that's within. Guys lead externally, They win wars by defeating the enemy. The woman's talent is to win the war by turning the enemy into an ally. That's making a home. That's nurturing. That's connecting. That's the relationship. Not winning the game. Not getting the score. But connecting. So on this Shabbos, the Shabbos of giving of the Torah, the Shabbos, which is the Shabbos of the Kinus HaShluchas, this historic, virtual, but real, soulful convention of the women emissaries. So this is a Shabbos of empowerment and blessing and inspiration for all of us to live deeper, meaning to say, to do our mitzvahs not out of a sense of obligation, like somebody said, so I won't do the mitzvahs, I won't get the reward. No, so I won't have the biggest reward in the afterlife. I don't have to have the fanciest car in this world or the biggest paradise in the next world. So I'm not going to be the most religious there. So now we understand there's nothing to do with it. It's about God's desire to have a relationship with you now, here. Not about your piggy bank in heaven. Not about your reward. Not about your piety. Your being religious, Hasidic, whatever term you like. Not about that. It's about now. It's about connecting. Hashem says, I want to connect with you now. That's how we make a home together. Please, open up. Let's be one. That's what the mitzvahs are. Kosher and tefillin, mikveh, Shabbos, zuzah, all of the mitzvahs. So, wonderful Shabbos, friends of empowerment. I'm seeing some questions or comments. Let me quickly look at it if I can. Okay, Baruch Hashem, Fred's recovering. And Shepherd for Shalem. Some writes he's in Ohio, where he lives. Okay, I think it's the same point. Okay, so let's share only good news, everybody. It's a Shabbos of bracha. all those that need a healing physically, emotionally, mentally. May Hashem send the healing and the merit of this great healer. He's a wonderful hero, Rabbi Twersky, devoted to his people when he was here and from his luminous place, no doubt, on high. And I'll conclude with singing a song. And if you know it, please join along. It's a freiliche song, it's a happy song. As I mentioned, it's often sung on Simchas Torah, when we dance with the Torah, and it was certainly sung at many of the Farbrengens of the Rebbe, particularly, I should say, when the Rebbe would speak about Russian Jewry before the great miracle of the vanishment of the Soviet Union, that they should come out and so on. The song kind of expressed our hope and prayer that we'd be reunited with our Russian brothers and sisters, which happened before our eyes, as the Rebbe had foretold to us and made us prepare for it. So here's the song. Again, the words say, Shia Samecha, Uvorech es Nachalasecha. Save your people and bless your inheritance, and through them the whole world is blessed and redeemed. Shia Samecha, Uvorech es Nachalasecha. Moreim, 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 v'nasim, moreim, v'nasim adoilam. Shia esamecha, uvarech es nachalasecha. Moreim, 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 v'nasim, moreim, v'nasim adoilam. Shia esamecha, Uvarech es nachalasecha. Moreim, 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 v'nasim, moreim, v'nasim adoilam. Shia esamecha, uvarech es nachalasecha. Moreim, 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 v'nasim, moreim, v'nasim adoilam. As I mentioned, they sang this as they carried his bier. Tears, joy, coming from a very deep place of the Jewish heart, of the Jewish neshama. So good Shabbos, everyone. Thanks for joining, as we always do. We put you all on the